Sorry about that.
Oh, no problem.
All right.
Hi, Roger. How are you doing?
Hmm. There we
Okay,
go.
I was muted.
That's okay.
Good. Now we can hear you.
How are you doing, Roger?
I'm doing good.
All right, great. Great, great. So I think Tom Hutton was going to try to join today too, but I haven't seen him join yet. Um, I'm wondering if perhaps we should just get started and see. Maybe he can join, later mid in the call, and we can catch him up. But I don't want to waste too much more of everybody's time. Um, does that sound okay for everybody to get started?
Yep.
Okay, great. So Roger, we're working off the same mission, vision, and values document that we started to put together during our last call. Ed and I took some time to go through it and try to distill some of the things that everyone was writing down. I think sometimes when there's like a group writing activity, you start putting a lot of ideas there, and we tried to distill the mission and vision into like two quick statements, and then categorize the other kind of like core things that we believe or strive for into our values statements. And so what I did was I left the old text that we had towards the bottom, so you can kind of compare where we were to this kind of cleaned up version that we have here. And yeah, we would love to go through this and see if how this strikes you guys, if it seems like something that represents how you envision this community and would like to see, guide our direction moving forward. And yeah, we would love to kind of talk through it and see if we're at a good first draft for our mission, vision, and values. Ed, I don't know if there's anything else that you want to add there, but
I was chewing on something. Sorry. No, I think it's a good start, and it will also help our communications materials down the line. Well, I have one question, Scott. We're having more people like on the periphery that are interested in joining the community, but I think that they're kind of a bit shy about, should I jump on these calls or not? Are these calls already by like a bunch of friends that have been meeting forever? And we're gonna have to figure out a way to bring them in as well into this process. Maybe the MVV and mission values and things like that will help them entice to participate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Perhaps once we get to like a first version, what we can do is share that through the Google group and just through email channels to other like periphery people who aren't engaged yet, and get their feedback and just help to also do, I guess, a bit of like onboarding them into the community as well. So I think that's a great idea, Ed. Are there particular people that come to mind for you or anybody else on this call, Roger, that might want to be become more engaged with the facility registry community or benefit from kind of a conversation around the mission, vision, and values?
I don't know that the mission, vision, values will attract so many people, but maybe if we were something more concrete that seemed more related to what people were supposed to be doing at that moment, that we would attract more people.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, I think one of the outputs that Ed and I were hoping is that this process could lead towards like the tangible roadmap of things that we want to work on over the next 3 to 6 months, for example, and we can start to prioritize. We really want to get our 1.0 implementation guide out. We want to do this. We want to do that. Do we want to grow the community, or do we want to, whatever our priorities are. And I think getting a first draft of this will help kind of set that up and help us drive towards those tangible things that people would maybe be more interested in jumping on as well.
So I think that the new one is in some senses a little bit too general, whereas the old one was a little too specific. I guess I don't see a lot of from here that tells me what we will actually be doing. Okay, and maybe remember when we went over the list of stuff, list of work stuff. I think we ended up with like 4 categories of them. something like that. Maybe if we could have a second sentence in vision that was like, we see ourselves undertaking the following tasks, and or maybe that's the wrong word. Task is the wrong word, but to list like the 4 action areas, so that people get a sense of, whether whether we'll be doing anything that they want to relate to.
Yeah, I kind of like that idea. I was trying to think back of what those 4 categories were. I think there was like implementation support,
Right.
probably
Standard
standards. Um,
software development or tool
yeah,
development. Let's be a little more general.
yeah. Hold on one second. I'll pull up that survey that had kind of those categories.
Yeah, that'd be good.
1 second.
Yeah, and I wanted to like echo Roger. I mean, there's the MVVs by themselves don't attract anybody, but at least you kind of get a sense of what the community group is about. One thing that we've been considering adding as a concrete value add that might attract people who won't be like full-time members and participants of the calls, but actually be in the know of who's there and kind of more involved in a second orbit, is having periodic implementation trainings, cross demonstrations between people who have done implementations and things like that, to be able to get to the nuts and bolts of what it has meant to implement a facility registry in a concrete country, expose what sort of trade-offs they had to do, and basically open up to a more horizontal Q&A what these implementers are doing. Because right now they're not like a lot of implementers, but they're still siloed, right? And we want to help foster that horizontal exchange here. Maybe not in the main community calls, but maybe do a every other month call where folks from the countries can get to share, how did you deal with this? This is how we dealt with that, and have also the tier of supporters like the UCCs and other consulting groups that help ministries also learn from that exchange. And that could be like a tangible thing that we facilitate, but it's not that we run it, and it's not the main community call. Does that sound like a reasonable value add to you?
I think it definitely adds, but I don't see why it's a separate track. It's feedback. Okay, it's self-report and stuff like that. And maybe what we need to have is we need to have have a value under openness and collaboration that has to do with sharing of experiences, good and bad, with not with I don't know what the right word is. It's sort of like I'm trying to say polite, or with a mature adult, whatever, discussion of differences and a respectful discussion of differences.
Mm-hmm.
I was at a meeting about a month ago, and people were talking about their experiences in different communities, and there was one, I won't say its name, but it's like a very well-known fundamental Java environment product, and it's like their mailing list, their listserv is like apparently like, if you're not an expert, you're going to be skinned alive. It's just not welcoming, and everybody's got really makes ad hominem attacks and stuff like that. And I think we ought to set it out here from the start, that that we're not going to behave that way.
Yeah, and that's about the community behavior. And are there any specific activities? Well, maybe we can brainstorm this later. I'm hijacking the call. Sorry, Scott.
No, but I think what Roger's getting at is a potential value we would want to highlight, right? We can talk more about the specifics.
Collaboration, so that we can talk about, people presenting their own work, the good and the bad, for discussion and potential criticism, but constructive and respectful, right? We're
Yeah. So how can we sum that up in like 5 to 10 words? Is it just like I think we kind of want to encapsulate like the spirit of like some of the fail-fair kind of stuff, where it's okay that failures happen, or we have challenges and struggles, and that we want to discuss those in like like you're saying, a respectful and a productive way, as opposed to kind of turning into competition or potentially negative types of communications between groups. I'm just trying to think how we could distill that into kind of like a one-line bullet that's concise and clear on that point. Because so the first bullet that we have is creating a supportive environment for diverse users and stakeholders.
I keep coming back to the concept of peer review or something like that. To a group of peers who seek the the collaborative inputs, of others. Maybe that's only one direction though, but does the word peer help in being the core of a sentence somehow?
I don't know, like a supportive peer network, maybe? Is that kind of what you're trying to get at? Or
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. Open supportive peer network. Something like that.
Okay, hold on one second. So create an open and supportive. I might be making this more confusing at first, but we can distill it down later. Peer network and community.
For diverse users and stakeholders. Yeah.
Okay.
Is that explicit enough?
I think so. I like it. I think what we wanted to say is that we're really open for anyone who has, ranging from like a tangential to a direct interest in facility registries to be welcome here, to ask their questions, share their successes and failures, all that, and that we really seek to support each other in the projects and activities that we have, right? I think that sounds great, and that we're a network and a community of diverse, technical and implementation people.
I didn't mean to erase that stuff you were working on at the top. I just got sort of sidetracked. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. That's okay.
Yeah, I moved the activities to below the vision. They were kind of in the middle there.
Oh yeah, they just got deleted on mine. Do I have to do?
Oh no, they're if you scroll down, they're just down a little bit.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess to get back where we were before, Roger. So the 5 categories in our survey, and this is just, I guess, to get us started. Maybe we can think if we actually want to categorize them this way. But it was architecture and integrations, general community topics, implementation brown bags. So this is kind of having the technical group in Tanzania share about how they created the curation tool or things like that. APIs, and then identification and authorization. There might be some overlap between these. I'm wondering if we could get them down to like three topics, for example. I don't know.
I think we can somehow collapse maybe 1, 4, and 5. Okay. To be like technical work. They're all technical work, and they all relate to the standardization and implementation of facility registry software, something like that.
Yeah.
Architecture, standardization, and development of facility registries.
So it's like facility registries and related tools, right? Or specs.
And related tools. That'll be fine.
And then we'll just give some examples, right?
That would work.
Hold on.
Right. I mean, I'm muted, or am I just a video? I guess I'm just a video. One of the frameworks, Roger, that we were using to analyze a bit what we wanted to do is an activity map. If you start from the vision and then you say, well, if you want facility registries to improve health outcomes in resource-limited settings, what are all the things that need to happen in order for that to become true, right? And who needs to do what sort of behaviors, and then actually map some of the activities there. And I don't, it's not a log frame, but it sounds like one at times. But it helps inform where are all the effort areas. For example, first you got to build awareness with the people who are the practitioners in country, and with the people that support the practitioners in countries like PEPFAR and CDC and USAID and whatnot. Then you have to make sure that there is a first port of entry where people can either ask a specific question or engage by themselves, so we can send them to the sandbox and So in order to achieve the goal, we have to have these 10 things in place, and here is what we're going to do to help them happen and to help potential people flow through them. And we haven't expressed this here because this was just the higher level mission, vision, values. But I think that sharing that will also help at least others or ourselves even prioritize efforts and saying, we have a great website, but people don't know where to jump from there. We need to work on that. Or, hey, we have a great website, but people don't find about this through the website. They find about this through CDC offices. So what is a pamphlet or brochure we can give to CDC offices to help build awareness? And maybe you can help with that, things like that. Does that make sense?
Oh, I just was very interested in your idea that of adding the why we're doing it. How does it contribute? What is its impact? It's I guess I guess I tend to break down rather than build up. But
yeah, I'm that way too. So what? Why?
To go to a more detailed view from a general view rather than to get back up to the general view.
Mm-hmm.
General, that's what the vision is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was interesting. But I think for the moment, I'd like to wordsmith on these three here, and then maybe we can focus on the whys, or whether they cover enough of the whys to be worthwhile. So let's work on implementation of brown bags for a minute, okay? Let's just say support and share experiences around implementation share experiences. Okay. I keep wanting to add an "in order to" clause at the end after this last discussion.
Well, it's useful. Add it, and then just "in order to," and then we can move it elsewhere. I mean, if it helps the thought process, that's a very common design thing. You say, I want to press the button in order to start the car, and it's okay, you want to start the car, and we're going to press the button as a way to do it, and.
Right. Well, so this is in order to identify best practices and to improve improve existing systems.
Just paraphrasing here for you, Roger, so we get it down.
Yeah.
All right, hold on. I feel like it's important for us also to like document best practices. I don't know if that would be good to make it a little bit more explicit.
Yeah, proven practices. Yeah.
I was beginning to think about two, that what does two really mean, right? And two is sort of the knowledge management part is what I was saying. And so that's where the propagation of and training and stuff like that would fit in, right? Is that what general communication was intended to cover? What did it cover in the survey?
Yeah, so in the survey it was what we're doing now, mission, vision, and values, um, implementation guide, PEPFAR MFL strategy, defining terms, what is a facility list, what is a master facility list, what is a facility registry, how do countries define what is a facility in their sense, website, and open forums for discussing burning issues. Those were the kind of 6 questions that we had in the survey there. So I don't know, it's kind of like a general category to put things that maybe didn't fit in other categories, but I do like the point that you raised about like how we coordinate and also how just like the community operates, I guess, right? I think those are important.
Oh, I would separate those out. I would focus out the to have a particular one that had to deal with documentation, indoctrination, and redoctrination.
Exactly, or indoctrination, right? All right. Hold on. So I'm just going to make some sub bullets here.
So documentation and value propositions, right? Implementation guide. What are some of the?
I wonder if the implementation guy would fit better kind of under the implementation brown bags, right? Maybe we just change the implementation brown bags to like a general, like all, that's like just the general implementation categories.
Maybe so, and that would mean that the documentation of the stuff in one would also be part of one, right? And what we're left in communication is with it's more like training, right?
Yeah.
Training at different levels, and
Okay.
is that
Yeah, I think so. So Roger, I'm just wondering.
training?
I'm wondering if maybe we should confirm the values first, and then we can start to break out each value and say, okay, here's like, yeah, I think we'll have similar categories amongst, like, as we break out the values into, hey, here's like architecture stuff we do, here's standards, here's communications, for example. I'm wondering if we should maybe confirm the values that we have, and then we can get into the specifics of some of the activities. Ed and I had already started to frame out some of these activities, so.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't want to reinvent the wheel, but
I would
yeah.
start this off as a second sentence for vision. No, for mission. Second sentence for mission. But Ed had parsed it out into activities as a separate section. So whatever order you want to go in, that's fine.
Yeah. Well, maybe what if we take like just 5 minutes for each of us and maybe call out things that you like and things that you think that you don't like or you think are missing for each of the, particularly for the values, but I guess also for the mission and vision too. And then we can talk through kind of like the concerns as a group and see where we diverge or where we intersect with our thoughts. Does that sound okay to you guys? And then we can kind of have like a group review process of what we have drafted here. Larry, is that okay for you?
That's okay. I'm not really very familiar with this facility, so I think Roger and Ed and you will have to take it from here.
All right, Larry, it's a little quiet for you. I'm having a hard time hearing you, but you're certainly welcome to help. Take a look at our mission, vision, and values as well, and give us your thoughts. I think there's there's going to be some similarities between different communities and activities in OHIE. So.
No, I like the in general this pass here, and we can't really be added.
So I'd like to add a bullet on. Well, actually, just do it and see if people hate it or not. Okay.
I think that's a good strategy.
Oh, I was
Okay.
talking into a muted microphone. I feel like a. Yeah. Go ahead, do that exactly.
One thing I'll just mention one thing I was thinking while Roger's typing up his bullet there, is I wasn't sure if user-driven was really a value. Does that seem like a value to you guys? I was somehow trying to communicate that we want to support countries to lead their own implementations. I don't know, maybe like supportive would be a better value, but it's not quite as clear. But that was one that I was a little, I don't know, on the fence about if that really made sense as a value or not.
Which one was that again?
It's the fourth value. Here, I'll highlight it. It's user-driven. Oh, I just made it yellow.
Yeah. Maybe we can find a better word, but I do think that it does represent core value, tenet of how this community can actually go through discovering and helping the implementation, discovering practices and helping with implementation of the facility registries. To me, it's like the other ones are openness and collaboration, interoperability, but they could be like a collaborative little team in an ivory tower somewhere, and this is the one that brings it down to earth and makes it, gives it a function to listen to those in the field who are actually, having pains and struggling with things and prioritizing things based on how well they work and not how well we think they should work. So to me, maybe the title is strange as a word. Maybe it's not a value to be user-driven, as in a dictionary would say, but I do think that what it tries to represent is key to our community.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I think it is key. I was just trying to think how best to communicate it so that it was clear to people that would read it, right? That it was something that was key to us.
So we're having the same sort of discussion over in the HMIS community, and the way that particular thing, at least what I hear you saying, was expressed over there was that it's driven by practice and local what you call local requirements and local needs, so that it's maybe pragmatic was a word that was used over there. And I think it's sort of also a value of like the whole OpenHIE is that it's driven by need and praxis, and as opposed to theory and what would you call it, credentials.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I think like when you're saying like driven by need, that's really hitting at the core of like what we're trying to communicate here. So this isn't just like a academic theoretical exercise and what would be the best thing that we think for other countries. but it's you know, it's driven by what they need and how we can best meet those needs from the technology solution side. So okay. All right, I'm gonna unhighlight here. Ed, any things that you feel like we're missing or would like to see added here?
I mean, always. So I'm a
Yes, the
I'm
answer
a
is
I'm a
yes.
stickler for detail. So yes, I think there are things, but I mean the point at where we're at is just like checkpoint this with everybody else who's here on the call. I think I'm feeling comfortable enough that we can curate a little bit and then expose it back to everybody in the mailing list after that curation, and then work a little bit on the activities and see how we are, how our plan for all the activities actually feeds into what we need to do to achieve the mission. So we generally are, and I think I'm with Roger. It's like we have to, kind of like document. We do this in order to get that and so on, and putting that in the frame of basically so that it adds up to the mission. I think will be the next best thing, so that we can explain with a logical framework. Here is here's the priorities. Here's how we can measure the performance of each activity, and here's when we know something is good enough. So even though it might be super fun to work on it, we don't think it will improve the outcome to put even more time into it. So I'm happy with where this is at right now because it allows us to do the next level of work.
Okay, great. So Roger, I saw you added a bullet, practicing quality improvement and assuring data quality. I think that was the one you added. Do you want to say just a quick bit about that and why you added it?
Practicing quality improvement is designed to identify the root causes of bottlenecks and problems and modifying processes to overcome them. Okay, and assuring data quality is what it is like, or maybe data and software quality. I don't know, maybe both. But in FRs, if the data isn't good, then it's bad, not just for the registry that people won't rely on it, but it also messes up the other components of the OHIE, and it reduces trust and value. Therefore, it's like, we could have the best in breed software and end up with garbage in it anyway. So
yeah, and I think I think that's a realization of any data set. And what we're trying to do, I mean, let me articulate the response to that. So maybe it's something that we can put in the document. So what we're trying to do with the facility registry effort is to help countries implement their processes of quality assurance and constant curation to continuously improve that data quality. Because the facility registry purpose is to have that data be of a certain quality that is usable, and they need to have autonomous mechanisms to constantly improve them. So I like what you say, because it does put the onus not on having a function, but on having good data. And I think that maybe the mission itself could be also reworded to include that as a slant. But let's not do the wordsmithing now. But I like that you bring that up, and it should be reflected in there. So I like that excellence in the data being called out, and I think it even percolates to other places.
So I wasn't thinking so much of the countries, although we want the countries to do it. I was thinking of it for us, okay? So this is, in other words, when we're doing our brown bag seminars, for example, okay, the reason that we talk about problems and not just successes, is because we want to improve our quality. Okay. Likewise with software, it's like um, we've got software that's covering 75% of the use cases, or let's say it's covering 95% of the use cases that we initially identified. But at this point, we've identified another 25% of use cases. It means that we've fallen down to 75%, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it means that we have to continually improve the software to match up with the things that we're discovering. Although that's maybe a step too far. Are we responsible for the software? Are we not? It might be a bridge too far. It might be taking more on the community than it really can do.
Yeah.
I mean, we might want to improve quality, but we don't have any funding, right?
Yeah, and I think that's part of like helping the countries also improve their own quality. So I think there's things that we can do and things that we can do to help them help themselves, so to speak.
Well, but I'm thinking that we also need to help ourselves, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Think of things that would improve resource manager, resource map, and DHIS2 more fit for the purpose of facility registries, for example.
Oh, okay. Okay, so I think maybe we can mention that explicitly. And identifying, identifying requirements to make these tools better fit for purpose. Again, I'm not wordsmithing now, but I'm just saying, is that a concept we want to capture here? And I think so.
Right. So we'll practice it among ourselves. We'll encourage it among our community members.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay, great. Well, Ed, yeah, maybe we can take a look at how to make that just a bit clearer in what we have currently, or iterate a bit on our current bullets here. But yeah, I think that sounds great. All right. Well, we have about 10 minutes left. So I thought it might be helpful for us to talk a little bit about, okay, we have this first draft. We feel pretty comfortable with it. Maybe opening it up a little bit more to the broader community and taking that next step to get this, first version done. And then I think a potential other next step that Ed was discussing a bit earlier too is, how do we kind of map each of these values and things that we want our community to be about to like the specific, activities or like action items that we want to functionally carry out as a group. And so I think those are the kind of next things that I would love to see happen, and I think we're looking forward to maybe sharing a bit of what we already have for broader review by the group as well. But I guess I wanted to take a minute to see, are there other specific things that we can do to get this mission, vision, and values wrapped up, and what other next steps that you guys would like to see, in between now and our next call as well. Ed or Roger, are there anything else that you guys would like to see kind of occur to get to a version 1.0 for our mission, vision, and values, and starting to do that mapping of activities in between now and 2 weeks from now?
Well, I've shared that offline. I think it's mostly a curation and like making sure the layout and the wording is fine. But I think in terms of community input, getting it curated a bit and then sending it out, I think that's a good thing. And I like the notion that we tack a version number onto it, because although these things need to be a slow-moving piece of the community, they also need not to be fixed in stone, right? So if you're changing your mission, vision, values every 2 weeks, you're screwed. But if you just say this will be forever and ever, you're not putting in mechanisms for learning.
It's just like facility data.
Yeah. We add a value here, we remove one there, we find there's duplicate values, right? And then we consolidate them.
Right.
All right, great. Well, Well, Roger, any other closing thoughts from your side? I appreciate your your input here today, and yeah, I think we're really driving towards something good here. So I appreciate your help. But any closing thoughts?
Um, oh, yeah, that's what it was. I knew I had one. Um, so, like, I've been on, what, 4 phone calls now about like that?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been the same people on all 4 calls. When you talk about putting it out into the community, okay, who who are we talking about? How can we have more community in our community?
I think that's actually a great thing. We've gone through different phases, and what happened is that part of the reason why we're doing this actually is to reduce part of the risk of one thing we saw before that is not necessarily super unhealthy, but I would have preferred to manage it maybe better with 20/20 hindsight, which is the sort of activities that we're focusing on shifted between things. And as those shifts happened, people who were interested in A suddenly were like, well, it seems like we're talking about B now, so I'll drop off. And once people drop off, it's super hard to make them jump back in. So originally was a bunch of e-health and m-health implementers, from low and medium income countries that were, let's just figure out ways to share facility data across all our tools in interoperable ways, right? And then it became another activity about let's do implementation guides and make sure that people can have like a prescriptive approach to implementing facility registries in their countries. And then it was, let's influence a particular IHE standard to include the notion of facility registries based on our knowledge. And each one of these didn't have 100% overlap with each other. And actually, the IHE effort had almost zero overlap with the previous two in terms of who was participating. So there's people who are like practitioners and implementers that are in our email lists that have not jumped on these calls because suddenly they saw things shifting elsewhere, and there was no time where we said, hey, you know what, come back in February and engage back in. Like, I mean, I don't know. I have screenshots where it used to be like 10 people dialing in, and none of you guys were a part of those 10 people. So, I think what we need to do is manage that up, not because people count in of itself is a is a metric here, but just to make sure that the right sort of people are attending the right sort of activities that are happening in the communities, and the people who want to opt out of those things because they go like, this doesn't really affect me, can jump out knowingly, but also have a time frame in which they know they might jump back in. And we're trying to manage that a little bit more carefully this year.
Okay. And so what can we say when we send this out that will get them to come back to help with this and share what they've learned in the 8 months since they've been here?
Sorry, what was the question?
What can we do to get them involved in this that we're doing now, and or share the experience that they've gained in the past 8 months since they've last come?
Okay, so I think to involve them, it depends. I think some of them, it might actually be worth a one-to-one ping. And so I think it's actually going out and saying, hey, we've been working on this. You are really value add when working on X, right? We might work on X again during maybe this time frame. Would you be able to participate and re-engage? And it will require some direct pings because I think some people are in the email list, but they're just lurking. They're not feeling that there's a lot of skin in the game. Also, another thing that we did before, which is like putting out a dish with honey amongst the flies, is to have like very token but tangible funding to say, hey, let's do another connect-a-thon, another hackathon, another integration demonstration with different vendors, and like have everybody rally towards a tangible goal that they can demonstrate. So, for example, having some mobile health tool interoperate with the facility registry better, so that they can want to put it on their website and then can claim, interoperability with OHIE, things. And those are some of the things that we're thinking with Scott about doing. We don't have a concrete plan yet, but these are the things we're brainstorming.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let me make a note here. I'll make a post. I have a little idea about that, but I don't. The other question that I thought, let's see, is do we have any of these messages? OHIE generally is working at the moment on exposing and curating messages. Okay, are there any messages of ours that we need to focus on and discuss on the technical side? Do we want to propose any messages?
Roger, what do you mean by messages? I wasn't sure if I understood.
I think you mean like workflows, like an OHIE workflow that might involve specific messages?
Well, it's not. It looks to me like we're talking about. Okay, if you want to call them workflows, that's fine.
Yeah.
Whatever it was, like I could get the name that they're exactly using. It's go back to the inbox. So, like they've been talking about alerts. Okay. Messaging. This is just me. This is just me.
Yeah, like the alerts workflow that we were discussing these last days and so on.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there's one key one that we know that we need to get in, which is actually something that's blocking many countries, which is how do we get updated facility data, at least the index, of which facilities exist there, into the data warehouse, right? We know that there's like a lot of tangible countries where, they say I have a facility registry or I want to have one, and I have like my data warehouse implemented as a DHIS, and the data warehouse will always be taking dimension data from other systems, right?
Mm-hmm.
And right now, we've had some like initial code done with the DHIS tool on how to do that, but it hasn't been really advertised or made official, and so that's one particular workflow which I think will help countries understand how to move into this world of web services that are each one doing their role well, without necessarily adding more friction as the data has to move between them. So that is one that we have identified as an important one.
Right, and then that sort of ties in with the CSD Infoman thing, and I'd like to discuss that at some point. I have some qualms about it. I don't know that that's the most important thing for us to do at the moment. I think what you're saying, which is, just where are the CRUD operations on facility registries done? Are we talking about multiple facility registries that then get merged into a master facility registry by the Infoman, or are we talking about an actual consolidated instance of a facility registry? I feel like there's. Go ahead.
No, sorry. I think it's simpler than that, right? I mean, the data warehouse has to take dimensions. Like if you were working in a supermarket, you would want to have a list of your supermarkets, a list of your product categories,
right?
And they will come from other systems, right? So in this case, the facility registry is the place where the curated list of facilities sits, and it has to get to the data warehouse somehow. So that's one workflow. And then, yes, I mean, there's been many discussions, even while we were giving input to the IHE standard, about the Infoman. And in an architecture, there'll always be like these ancillary applications and services that add like extra value in a particular direction. For example, the Infoman is like an aggregator of sorts, right? And if you want to have your data aggregated somewhere, across facilities and providers, and want to work with those particular style of queries, that's great. I don't think we envision it as the exclusive mechanism by which information flows, right? It's just another form of value-add service that can exist there, just like there's value-add services that are applications that support curation processes or applications that support exposing facilities to the general public, or services that might do some analytics on the facilities and tell you where you need to put your next hospital. I mean, we see that as part of the ecosystem of things that can live on top of the foundation services. So
I'm sorry, this is Larry. I have to jump off to get
okay, yeah, me too, actually, pretty soon.
Okay.
Okay, that sounded like sort of a discussion I wanted to have. So if we want to, if that fits on an upcoming agenda, then, or we can do it on the list, whatever. Because it looks to me like some people think that the CSD is the only way through which you access the FR, and partly that's because we're not offering any messages to put stuff into or get stuff out of the FR.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, perhaps, Ed, what do you think about just like a general workflow around how you can just strictly access health facility data from the facility registry? Would that be worthwhile?
How to access facility data from the facility registry?
Yeah, like through I don't think there's any workflow that describes the FRED API, for example, I guess.
No, but that's the point of workflows. The workflows are not like specific messages or specific APIs. You're trying to say, here's like a patient care goal I'm trying to achieve, or here is a particular data management goal I'm trying to achieve, and then you figure out what is all that needs to be touched. That's why I'm saying like moving facility, making sure that the data warehouse has up-to-date facility registry is a noteworthy data quality goal that is worth to achieve. So we might want to work on it. Having, and then we have to identify other workflows that, if they happen to exercise the FRED API, that's great.
Mm-hmm.
But we need to be user-centric in the sense of thinking, what are the user problems? Now, the FRED API solves lots of other problems, right? In terms of exchange of data and keeping it updated, that has helped other health providers, but they don't necessarily have to involve a coordination of multiple services inside OHIE. The same way that some queries to the to the provider registry don't necessarily involve or require the participation of all the components of OHIE as a complex machinery. It's very like something comes in, gets this data, and gets it out. And so even though it's an acknowledged function of the registry, it is not an OHIE integration workflow. Does that make sense? Maybe I'm categorizing it that way in my head, and the rest of OHIE is not. So I'm seeing Paul in a handful of hours, and I'll actually maybe check with him if maybe I'm being too restrictive about how I think about these things. But
yeah, no, I think just to what Roger was saying kind of just struck me that there is a lot of attention on these workflows, and it does specify like the specific mechanisms with which someone would access a facility registry in coordination through CSD, right? And so maybe it isn't particularly clear, what those other avenues are to, take advantage of the endpoints that are already there for the facility registry. Is just what my thought was, or it's not obvious to people.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll check with Paul and see if I have to think about this. But yeah, I agree with you. It's not obvious, and it starts feeling that there's like, what I don't want to have is like a feeling that there's A class and B class transactions. And just because we happen to be coming from the OHIE perspective, things that are not about integrating all of OHIE may be B class, because there's lots of functionality that countries derive value from that might not necessarily be complex healthcare workflows.
Yeah.
As we've already seen with all the other 10 participants that Roger pointed out were not here today.
True. Okay, great.
Right.
Well, hey, why don't we wrap up today? I think we've gone over a little bit, but yeah, Roger, let's find a time to follow up on discussing CSD a bit, but yeah, I just want to thank you guys for joining today, and I'll work to kind of follow up to get some of that curation on the text for the mission, vision, and values sent out to our broader community, and maybe try to kick off some of those specific conversations too. And then we'll see everyone in 2 weeks or so.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Scott.
All right. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.